Hey folks, I'm JC from One Shot Adventures, and this channel is all about running, well, great one-shot adventures, but also short campaigns. And as many of you know, I think that horror makes for some of the best one-shot adventures. Horror is usually more contained, more dangerous, and has pacing that really fits into 1 or 2 sessions. And in a one-shot, nobody really minds if their characters end up alone in the dark and horrifically killed off by something monstrous. That's part of the fun. Well, the Alien RPG from Free League is a fantastic horror game. It's one of my favorites. I find that it's easy to pick up. The background is familiar to almost all players, and its mechanics do a great job emphasizing the effect that fear, stress, and panic put on ordinary people. Its handful of published cinematic adventures are all well-crafted and have amazing production values. I especially like that the Free League adventures always start with something really familiar, usually stolen from one of the Alien movies, but then they go on to surprise your players with twists along the way. While I don't think any of them are masterpieces and they often need some GM tweaks, they are all solid adventures that will be enjoyed by your table. The Alien RPG just got a brand new version, an Evolved edition, that mostly makes some minor rules tweaks, updates the lore, and makes the layout more readable. Although in truth, I have a love-hate relationship with the old white text on black design from the previous edition. Like Alien 3, part of me respects it, but mostly I'm just thankful it's in the past. The Alien Evolved edition just got a great new starter set. I think it's stronger than the previous editions, which includes the core rules, dice, tokens, and a starter adventure, Hope's Last Day, a scenario that puts the players into the roles of the doomed colonists at Hadley's Hope, the colony that every fan knows is overwhelmed by xenomorphs in that classic movie Aliens. So, is this adventure the place to start to explore the Alien universe? Or does this adventure tread too much of the same ground that everybody knows? Well, grab your Carter Burke vests and get ready for some serious spoilers, because not only am I going to give you a full review of Hope's Last Day, but I'm going to give you GM some tips and tricks on how to run this adventure like a pro. Hope's Last Day is designed by Dave C. Mark, Matthew Tyler Jones, and Thomas Herenstam. The adventure runs about 20 pages and is designed to fit into a single 3 or 4 hour evening, which is why you'll often see this adventure run at game conventions. It just does a great job at fitting into a single session. You can find it in the new Alien RPG Evolved Edition starter set, though the original first edition was printed in the old core rulebook. The starter set is a way better location for this adventure, and it comes with pre-generated characters, maps, and high-quality handouts. There are small differences between the 2 editions, but I'll only refer to these occasionally. But to be clear, this review is of the Evolved Edition version, which is a little more streamlined than the first edition. The players all play blue-collar colonists working at the Hadley's Hope colony, a small terraforming station on the planet LV-426, the planet that was the original home of the xenomorph in Alien. Those of you who've seen the movies know the basic story. A colonist was sent out to explore a derelict crashed spaceship, and he returned to the colony infected by a facehugger. Soon, a xenomorph popped out of him, escaped into the colony, and everyone was overwhelmed by the aliens, with only a single survivor left. This adventure is a prequel and expands the story a little bit. It says that there was a recently arrived shuttle at the colony, which provides a potential escape route for some of the colonists. So the PCs aren't all completely doomed here, just mostly.
Mostly.
The adventure also provides 3 secret agenda cards for each pre-generated PC, and the players trigger each one at the beginning of an act. This is a small and welcome change from the original edition, where everyone had just 1 agenda card. The agendas do a nice job of giving the PCs more specific objectives during the adventure. They include things like finding a friend in the colony, searching for special gear, and of course, some players have the classic Alien-style corporate objectives mixed in with some of the characters wanting to collect xenomorph samples before escaping. And one character, Holroyd, is a synthetic who at first is very driven by corporate motivations, but then midway through the adventure, he just decides he wants to save the team. Between his additional mechanics of being an android and his swingy agendas, I suggest you give Holroyd to a more experienced player if you decide to use him. The adventure begins with the PCs, a survey crew, returning to the colony after being stranded in the waste due to a maintenance issue on their vehicle. So while they know that there was a single creature loose on the colony, they have no idea that they're returning to a far worse situation. So when they re-enter the main colony facility, they find it abandoned with no sign of life. Now, one place I'll compare the two versions of the adventures is I think the original did a better job of setting up the situation. In the original, the PCs enter the colony and hear a broadcast warning repeating throughout the halls.
This is an emergency message. All colonists must immediately assemble at the main storeroom on the sublevel for safety.
That's right, after hearing that message, they hear a distant gunshot and a scream. This sets the tone way better than just finding an empty facility. This note is in the adventure, just packed in the back among the optional things that can happen, so just move it up and do that right away. Although I'll warn you, since this adventure removed the sub-basement from the map, you'll just have to say that the freight elevator won't go down there, or if it does, it's swarming with Xenos. The adventure is split into 3 acts. The first covers the initial exploration, the second triggers when a xenomorph is encountered, and the third begins when they find the med lab. The map is much smaller in this new version of the adventure, and there's a xenomorph on the very first level, so that first act may literally last about 10 minutes. So I suggest you hold this alien back a little bit. If the PCs beeline right for his location near the Weyland-Yutani main office, which is likely, just have it scurry into the air ducts and start stalking the PCs. Hold him in your pocket for a later point in the adventure. Xenomorphs are crazy deadly in this game, so you just don't want your unarmed players getting horribly killed only 10 minutes into this adventure. You probably want to wait until at least 1 or 2 of them have scrounged a good weapon before full-on attacking them. Hey, don't worry guys, I got an HK VP-70 gun. There's no way the aliens are gonna get me. The Weyland-Yutani office is a key location in this adventure, since it has the body of the Weyland-Yutani inspector, along with a key card that can be used to start the shuttle that's still here on the base. Unfortunately, the keycard is destroyed, but I like to create some ambiguity for the players and tell them that it is damaged and might not work. Uncertainty is always better in a horror game than certainty. There's also a comms device that connects to the doctor who's in the med lab on the second level of the colony. Dr. Komiskey is a panicked mess. She says she's trapped and asks the PCs to please find and rescue her. Dr. Komiskey is indeed trapped. An unknown to the PCs, she's been face-hugged, and so the other colonists quarantined her in the surgery room of the med lab. When they finally come to her, she begs to be set free, and of course, at a dramatic time, we'll have a chestburster explode out of her and go on the run. But she also has the only undamaged keycard that can unlock the shuttle. This creates a really fun interaction once the players get to Dr. Komiskey, since undoubtedly your players will be pretty suspicious that she's been infected, but they'll also realize that they need her key card. Or if you kept it ambiguous whether the first key card works, think that they might need the card. Of course, since Dr. Komiskey is desperate to escape, you should have her lie her head off. One time, I had her try to convince the PCs that they needed both key cards to release the shuttle and escape, all due to a new Weyland-Yutani security protocol. This totally isn't true, but it was fun to use the doctor to really confuse the poor players. The other rooms in the colony are mostly utilitarian. There's a few storage rooms where the PCs can scrounge for much needed supplies. There's a casino, which has a couple more survivors hiding in there, which is also great for backup PCs, especially if that xenomorph on the first level kills some of them early. And the operations center in the colony is very helpful, providing camera views into the rest of the compound so that the PCs can avoid the couple other xenomorphs that are in there. It also shows the landing pad, as well as the locations of some of the other survivors on the colony. After I saw this tip online, I added a couple fire extinguishers to a few of the rooms, which are good for distracting xenomorphs and giving the players time to get away from them. But I added a twist here too. When my players found and used that first fire extinguisher, I had the base's fire alarm go off and a door suddenly close behind them and seal them inside the room they were in. This terrified them, and rather than figure out a way to noisily break open the door, well, they sent one of the players into the air ducts to go around and let them out. Well, and you know how that worked out. Lucky, 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 lucky. After exploring both levels of the colony and finding that one key card that will release the shuttle, the players are going to realize they have to make a run for it. It's not really clear how far away the landing pad is from the colony building, which I found a little disappointing. I also don't like how the end of the adventure, this final run, is just abstracted. The adventure says for every PC to make 3 mobility rolls, and if they fail, a xenomorph's on top of them, which will probably mean certain death. So I like to run this a little more narratively and have my players describe how exactly they're going to run and weave to get to the shuttle. Is one of them going to stay back and provide some cover fire? Are they just going to run one at a time out? Just force them to try to use some tactics and give them some modifiers to the rolls just to make it a little bit more possible that it's not just bad luck that kills them off at the end. And if 1 or 2 of them make it to the shuttle, well, then they find that there's more bad luck because the shuttle's been loaded up with alien eggs thanks to Weyland-Yutani, and they're all about to hatch. So unless the PCs have found an incinerator unit and get very, very lucky, there's a good chance they never escape this planet. But that's okay. When I've run this adventure, I always end up with 1, maybe 2 survivors, and I think that's about right for an alien adventure. And that's Hope's last day. So what do I think? Overall, even though this adventure is just like 2 floors of a building, some aliens, and 1 key, I find that it makes for a very tight, well-done horror adventure. It perfectly recreates what your players are expecting from an alien adventure. It's well crafted, forces the players to navigate a web of rooms to get what they want. For example, right away, the PCs will want more guns, and this seems easy. Go to the armory. But getting into the armory requires another key, which can be found in the morgue, which will raise stress levels and has a chest burster. Or they could go to the manager's office, which requires some good searching room to room, which is going to increase the likelihood of an alien encounter. This is all great horror game design. The players will know their objective right away, but it's always going to be just out of reach or something more challenging is in front of them, preventing them from getting it. This is also an adventure that relies a lot on pacing, and GMs should walk in understanding this. A lot of it's on you to create that tension. Before I ran this adventure myself, I played it with a GM at a game convention who ran it more like a straightforward dungeon crawl. We just went room to room, we found some NPCs, clues, or xenomorphs as was designed on the map. But that's not the way to run this adventure. You need to slowly increase the pressure on your players as they go. You know this adventure is only going to last 3 or 4 hours, so just have a plan every hour for cranking up the tension. Never let your players just explore a room and feel safe. Always describe a noise heard somewhere else in the complex, an object dropping on the floor above them, or a strange draft coming out of one of the air ducts. Remember that this facility is failing. Flicker the lights, have a klaxon siren go off for 10 minutes. Once I even use my iPhone to annoy my players with one, and describe the growing storm outside the windows. And then use those alien drones intelligently, striking them from hidden locations after the PCs make too much noise. I liked one suggestion that I read online of having the first victim who falls to the xenomorph attack, one of the players, dragged off. Not killed outright, but dragged off to who knows where. And then later in the adventure, your players will hear that character's whimpering coming from the air ducts. Is that an alien trap, or is he really there? Well, of course it's an alien trap, but these kinds of moments elevate the horror and desperation and make your players really nervous. If the adventure has a weakness, it's that it's very, very familiar. Players probably know Hadley's Hope, they know what happened to the colonists, and they know that they'll be dealing with standard xenomorphs, nothing new. It doesn't really pull in any new lore or twists, which I get because it is based on the most famous movie of the Alien saga. But this does mean that your players will rarely be surprised. Whether this matters to you or not depends on your group. If your group is craving the Alien RPG because they want to experience xenomorphs and relive some of their favorite moments from the movies, this won't be an issue. But if they want something that feels more complex, or maybe they're just horror fans that are used to more involved mysteries like they might find in a Call of Cthulhu game, well, I suggest you skip this and jump to one of the longer cinematic adventures like Chariot of the Gods, which is one of my favorites, or Heart of Darkness, which I like a lot but needs some more tweaks. But those adventures just pull in more lore and mix it up in a more interesting way. But yes, Hope's Last Day is a solid introduction to the Alien RPG, and I think the second version of it is a little bit more contained and polished. You get pretty much exactly what you expect, a tight and deadly adventure that will challenge your players to survive the evening. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more reviews like it, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Until next time, I'm JC, and just remember, it's never game over when you have an incinerator unit. Ah!